Hello peeps, I hope you're all feeling lovely and well. Firstly, I am going to say, in typical Rich Rams fashion, I recorded about 15 hours of video while I was playing the Peaprit drive. When you load it up, it puts a black screen over my second monitor, so I couldn't see, but it was recording for 15 hours with no sound. So the first part of the video don't have any sound effects, don't have any sound on the games and stuff. But on the second part of the video, I can guarantee you, that's when I realised and set it right. It was a setting in OBS that I'd missed. And also, with the sound, you're going to keep hearing different levels of microphone, maybe a bit of echo and that. I recorded all my voiceover via CapCut, and for some reason, half it had echo on it, half it didn't. It was just doing its own little thing, so I apologise for that as well. The sound on the microphone is going to rise and lower and echo and whatever else it's going to be doing. And the next thing, the reason why I put Kinhank and Peaprit in the title is because as I was scrolling down through, I believe it was the Hyperspin collection, there's a load of QR codes for Kinhank, so I'm assuming he's just stole it off him and copied it and his name to it and put a little video at the start of it or whatever. They might be part of the same team, I don't know. It's just, I'm assuming, I've never seen the Kinhank drive going, but I'm assuming this is exactly the same as the Kinhank drive, it's just copied from it. And also, if you've already brought this drive, I'm going to show a load of tips, fixes and bug fixes and updates to the emulator and all that sort of stuff, as they're not very well optimised, these drives, aren't they? Sort of just thrown together and then left and then just carried on being sold. So some of the updates are really far out of date, so I'll show you how to do a few bits and bobs on that side. Anyway, let's crack on. So the first thing that drew me to this was the price of it, £116.71, and it says it's been reduced from £240, which is 51% off. Now, I couldn't believe this price at the start. I thought it was going to be some sort of scam or something, because that is really cheap for just a 12TB hard drive. So obviously the first thing I thought was, it's either a cheap piece of crap hard drive, it's a scam, or maybe it's a used drive or something along those lines. So when the drive arrived, I slid open the caddy, and it was an HDD drive, but it looked fairly old. It had a lot of dirty marks on it and stuff like that. So then I sort of knew it was a second-hand drive. So I ran it through the hard disk Sentinel, and this is the results I got here. I got a power on time of 1,348 days, and then estimated remaining lifespan is more than 476 days. So basically the drive's probably about 5 years old. But there's still plenty of life left on the drive. And to be fair, I'd much rather get a branded disc drive than have an absolute cheap piece of crap that's going to last, I don't know, 6 months or whatever, and then fail. So I sort of gathered it'd be a second-hand drive, but I wasn't bothered at all. But looking through, in the UK, in England where I'm based, you're basically going to be paying probably £120 to £130 for a used 12TB HDD drive. So to be able to get it the price that I did from China, basically, and get it sent over full of ROMs is still really cheap. I'm not bothered that it was second-hand. So I had a quick scan through the advert where I bought it from, and I couldn't see anywhere where it said it were a used drive. So it's a little bit naughty, to be fair, but like I say, I'm not bothered anyway. It's still really cheap for what it is. So, and there still looks like there's plenty of life left on the drive, so I'll be happy enough with that anyway. But they probably should tell you it's a used drive. Oh yeah, and then something I failed to mention was it took around about 6 days to be delivered from China to the UK, so that weren't too bad. So anyway, I'll have a scroll through the system now, and then, like I say, I'm not going to go into every single thing. It's a long enough video anyway, and it's probably going to bore people. But I wanted to show a bit more in depth. I wanted to show if there's any sort of loads of repeat games. I wanted to show if they've gone to the effort to put a lot of artwork in, because a lot of these drives don't have all the artwork, so they just look a bit crap, to be fair. So first off, we'll look at the best system on the drive, which is a Retrobat. So while I'm scrolling through, if you look at the very top, you'll see the amount of games for the system that I'm looking at. It's right at the top of the screen in the centre. So we'll scroll up to 3DO. There's 218 games in here. Amstrad 7,764 games, so I'm assuming there's going to be loads of repeats and crap in here. The GX 400, 25 games. That's a decent collection by the looks of it. All the artwork's there, so that's really good. It's nice they've spent the time to actually download some artwork. Onto the Atari's 2600, 664 games. All look same again. I know full well this Adventure, one of them's Adventure 1 and one of them's Adventure 2. Stuff like that on mine, I've scraped it. There you go, look, that one's Adventure 2 at the top. It's a totally different game, but they've just scraped it as the same game. And there's a lot of the unlicensed titles in here. There's obviously some French and German sort of games, but these drives are for everybody, not just for British people. So 450 games on the Atari 800. Again, there's all the videos here. Maybe not all, but there's a lot in there. Mine hasn't got them all. They're hard to find unless you actually physically go in and play them, which I do on a lot of my stuff. But to be fair, again, it's another good collection there. 5,271 games sounds about right. There's some unlicensed games in here again, but besides that, it's got all the artwork, the videos are in there. See, what a lot of people do is buy one of these drives and use it as a RAM dump, and it's a decent enough drive to do that with because there's a lot of artwork already here, so it's a lot less work for you to do. Atari ST 1,145 games. Again, there's all the artwork. It don't look like there's any repeats, or not many if there is any. There'll obviously be games in here that are 2 or 3 discs, and they'll class them as 2 or 3 games, but besides that, again, it's there's no complaints there. Atari 7,860 games. Again, that sounds about right. It's about a complete collection. There's no repeats, all the artwork. Onto the Atari Lynx, 75 games. Again, it looks like all the artwork's here. There's no repeat games. Another good collection. Atari Jaguar, 54 games. Another good collection there. I'm impressed with this, to be fair. It's a lot better than the original stuff. I know I find a lot of stuff in here that's not great, but Wonderswan Colour, 94 games. A lot of these Japanese games, there is some translated stuff, but a lot of it's not playable. I still put them on mine as well, so I can't really slate that for putting Japanese games on for a European market, but 166 games in ColecoVision. Same again, looks pretty complete. Commodore 64, 2,616, which is a lot better than last time. They put about 11,000 games on one of the Kinhank drives I brought, which is just stupidness. So that's a lot better. Still, I mean, I only put about 300 games on my drive, the Commodore 64 games. So I've got thousands, but I only tend to put like a few hundred on. But again, it looks like a real good collection here, to be fair. There's no repeats in here. There's no like bloody 20 disc games and whatever else. The good old Amiga, one of my favourite old computers, 1,798 games. Same here again. Alien Breed 3D, I don't know where we played that. I can't remember doing so, but I'm seeing now, so I might have probably played it. I played all the original Alien Breed games. I don't remember playing the 3D one. CD32, 264 games. Again, another really good collection, good artwork. There's the odd little bit missing as I'm scrolling through. There's the odd video missing, but it's much to be expected, I think, when I do them all. Commodore CD-TV, 30 games. These are absolutely crap. I owned one of these. Well, to be fair, I owned most of the systems. It was just like a DVD player with a remote control, and they were so laggy and shit to play, basically. Mega Duck Handheld, which is 24 games. Yeah, even these, they've gone to effort to put the videos on that, which is really good, to be fair. In television, 140 games. Same again here. Looks like everything's complete. I know there's a lot of issues with this drive later on, and there's stuff that doesn't work. There's a lot of repeat games and certain stuff, but all these collections up to yet so far, Vectrix 41 games, all these collections up to yet would be a great start if you wanted to build your own system. You could just copy and paste all these in. You haven't really got to do any work to these whatsoever. You see here, Berserk, there's a repeat game. Just going into the Polar Rescue as well there. There's the odd repeat game, and these smaller ones, you just go in and delete them out of the run folder. Check them first to make sure they both load. And if they both load, just delete one of them. For the MSX, 459 games. Now this one seems to have a lot of repeat games in it, but it seems like there's most artwork here. There's still a lot of artwork. I don't know whether everything's got videos, but again, like Arkanoid, there's 3 of them. There's games that have got 6 discs and stuff like that. So they're classed as 6 games when they're not. It's just 1 game basically. But again, it's still not a massive workaround. A lot of people won't like these, and a lot of the games are Japanese. But for most of the ones I've tried, they're all in English anyway, the titles. So, but there's also a lot of Japanese games in there, which might not be so playable. Xbox, 62 games, which I'm surprised about really. I thought there'd be more. But again, what is in here? They seem to have gone with the better titles. Not just filled it with a load of crap. All the artwork, and it's easy enough to obviously add your own games to it, so you could, if you wanted a bigger collection. Like on my personal drive, my Xbox collection is about 560 or something, I believe. There's more than that, to be fair. Forza Motorsport, great games. I really used to love them. Jet Set Futures on there twice, but that's the only repeat in the old game, in the old collection, so you can't moan about that. Now, Xbox 360, 114 games, which is a good, decent collection. Again, there's the odd bit of crap in here, but to be fair, the Xbox 360 emulator is not perfect. It's not great. It's getting a lot better, but it's not as good as a lot of the other ones. But there's some bigger titles in here. I'll scroll through all the 360 games to show you. Moving on to PC Engine, 300 games. A lot of these are going to be Japanese games. There'll be a lot of them playable, there's a lot of them that'll just be like hack and slash type games and arcade games, you know, so you don't need the language to be able to navigate through the menu. Also, there might be the odd translated game in here. The TurboGrafx is 108 games. The TurboGrafx is going to be more of the English spoken games. There's going to be some more translated games in here, but there'll be more English spoken games than Japanese. PC Engine CD-ROM is 124 games. PC Engine CD-ROM again is going to be the Japanese section of them. These are all NEC type computers. They're all very similar games. There's a lot of the same games on all the different consoles. TurboGrafx CD is 47 games. But you tend to find the TurboGrafx ones they've got the most English games on them. The super graphics, there's only 5 games on here. They're all Japanese titles, but we'll be able to play all them. PCFX, 70 games. This is probably going to be the least playable collection out of all the NEC types, because there's a lot of RPG games in here that's going to be spoken in Japanese, so you're not going to be able to understand anything. Then moving on to the Famicom, which is 415 games. So the Famicom basically was the Nintendo Entertainment System, but obviously it was released in Japan first. And then we've got the Nintendo Entertainment System, 888 games. As you can see, there's a fair few repeat games. Not loads, it's not ridiculous like in a lot of them. There's some unlicensed games and some prototype games there. Personally, I don't like these games. I like to just keep it retro and official, like all the official games that came out. I like to play all the games that I used to own, you know. I don't want to play the prototype games. I know a lot of people like it, so it's each of their own, but me, personal preference, I'm not a fan of them. Then the Nintendo Entertainment System hacks. There's 91 of these. There's a lot of the games with the same title. You'll find they're different versions, different hacked versions of the games. Again, they're not my cup of tea, but many people like them, so. There's loads of different versions of the Mario Brothers games. $214 games on the Famicom Disk System. Again, these are going to be mainly Japanese games, but there's a lot in there that have been translated to English as well. To the Game Boy, 2,088 games. Again, you get all these 4-in-1 games that I'm not a massive fan of. The game's already in the system, you don't need 4-in-1s and 8-in-1s and 50-to-1s and whatever else is. They're also all mixed up in the Game Boy. There's Japanese, there's world ROMs, there's American ROMs, there's European ROMs, Australian, there's prototypes, there's the SGB enhanced ones, there's all sorts of different stuff in here, all mixed up. And also, again, there's a lot of repeat ROMs in here. Not crazy amount, but there's still repeat ROMs. Then on to the Super Famicom, which is 525 games. Again, as with the other ones, these are mainly Japanese. There's going to be a lot of translated English games in here. Super Nintendo, 2,172 games. Now I know there wasn't even 1,000 games made for the Super Nintendo, so before this even starts, you know full well it's going to be full of repeats and whatever else. There's the Japanese games in here, there's the American and the European. So there's a lot of repeat games in here. See there's some of them, there's 3 or 4 versions of the same game, which again is one of my bugbears with these games. I don't like it at all. And then the Super Game Boy, 289 games or 39, my eyesight shot. So basically this was just a cartridge expansion that sat on top of your Super Nintendo. You could plug your Game Boy games into it and it'd add a bit of colour. They still look crap to be fair, but it just added a bit of something different I suppose. Again, all the games are mixed up in here. There's all different languages. There's some repeat ROMs, not many, but there's a fair few repeat ROMs. And then the Nintendo Satellaview, Satellaview, 85 games. Again, I don't believe this was released in Europe. I'm not 100%. I might be wrong there. I think it was just a Japanese console, like an addition, an add-on, like a CD player for the bottom of the Super Nintendo. I don't know a massive load about it, to be fair, so it's not worth me trying to explain what it was. But I have had a quick play about on some of the games. There's some decent little games in there. There's the Super Mario Power Challenges that I had a play about with, and also the Excitebike games. There's just like little sections of each game what you can go and play and try and probably do it with the best score. That's what it was about, I suppose. Onto the Virtual Boy 25 games. Again, they're mixed up here. There's some Japanese and American and probably European games in here. There's a few repeats, not many, because these V-Tetris games are repeats, so. But again, to be honest, all the artwork's there, so it won't take much to put them right. Onto the 64, 553 games. Mine's only got 300 and something, so I'm going to assume these are all Japanese and whatever else. Well, to be fair, it looks like there is 2 of every single game, at least, sometimes more. They put the European and the American version on, which, if you took the non-repeat games out, then it's probably going to be about 300 and something games, 350 games around that sort of mark. So that's pretty crap how they've done that. Fair enough if there was the Japanese games, obviously these drives are sold worldwide, but you don't need 2 English versions of every single game. But as I've said, if you want it as a ROM dump and you want to build your own system, then it's fine. You just go in and take the half of the games out. All the artwork's there, so you've got the base of a really good system. Game Boy Color, 1,959 games. Again, you've got the odd few repeats in here. You've got a few different versions of like the European, the Taiwanese, the Japanese, the USA, the World European. So you're going to get a fair few repeats in here, but nothing too bad. It does look like there's a lot of artwork missing in this section, which up to yet, to be fair, and all the others have been really good. I'm surprised with how many systems have got the full artwork on them. 64 disc drives, 10 games. There's a few of these sort of, even though there's 10 games, I think there's only about 4 because they all sort of repeat themselves. But they're all Japanese. I've tried to play a couple before and I couldn't work out what was going on, so. Onto the Gamecube, 638. Looking at this, it looks like a really good collection. They don't look like there's many, if any, repeat games. I'm assuming that they haven't hid the disc 2s to certain games. Like there where you see the Eternal Wings Last Ocean. They've not hid the second disc, which isn't bad at all. You only got to hold your A button on and hide it. Besides that, really good collection, all artworks there, so that's what you want. That if every collection was like that, you'd have no qualms with anything. Yeah, with these better consoles like the GameCube and that, I'll scroll through a lot more of the games to show you, so people can have a good look to them.
Game Boy Advance 3,387. And here we go with the 2-game pack and all this. First thing I do with any sort of collection is delete all them. You don't need them, you've already got the games further down. See here, look, Finding Nemo, you've got that like maybe 5 or 6 times there. But yeah, there's loads of repeat games in here, as well as the 8,004 for one games at the top. My Game Boy Advance collection's about 1,000, I think. 1,100, 1,200. If we go down to the actual Finding Nemo as well, you see it's here 4 or 5 times as well as the 6 times above. So that's 10 versions, maybe, of the same game. That's classed as 10 games, when in reality it's only 1 game. It's a fair bit of artwork missing as well in the Game Boy Advance. There's a lot there, but there's still quite a bit missing. Then you've got the Game Boy Advance hacked, there's only 22 in here. Fire Emblem, that was quite a popular game. I think it's more Asia, but it was really big in America, I believe, as well. And it got fairly big in Europe as well. I never played it personally. The Pokemon Mini Little Handhelds, 30 games. I wasn't a Pokemon fan, but for anybody who was, these are probably like, it's a bit of a novelty thing where they can come and have a look and have a play about on them. DS, 6,889 games. That's a hell of a lot. What I've done with the likes of DS, because there were so many of them, I did it with a fair few consoles where instead of putting bloody, like 4,000, 5,000 games on, I'd Google the top 100 games, and then sometimes I'd add probably 20, 30 more myself, but I cut them really down, but hopefully I put all the most popular games that was ever made on them. Instead of them being full of crap that nobody would ever play, I wanted more of a complete and more of a playable collection on my drive. But again, I can't, there's a lot of artwork missing, but I can't really fault because it's got such a big collection, because a lot of people like that. A lot of people want every game ever made. So there's a fair few, like here I'm scrolling down, you can see all these are missing the media, and then you'll get a one every now and then like that Bejeweled, that's got the video and all the artwork. Onto the Nintendo Wii, 887 games. Again, on mine I've only got 100 odd games. I've cut them right down, I put all the most popular games on, I removed a lot of the crap what people wouldn't play. But this again looks like a really solid collection. They don't look like there's any repeats. All the artwork seems to be there. Again, this is what you want to buy when you're buying one of these drives, if every single collection were like this. Again, I'll have a good scroll through the Wii games. Also with the Nintendo Wii, it's really hard to control if you're playing certain games. You can set them all up with the controls, but it's still really awkward for the pointer. It's really, really sensitive and fidgety. I always recommend getting a Mayflash Dolphin bar and using your actual Wii remotes. They're easy enough, you just plug them in. I believe most times it'll automatically work, but if not, you just go into the settings and change it so it's on a real emulation Wii remote instead of being emulated by a controller. But the Wii's still great fun. There's a lot of games out there, really, really good, enjoyable games. Moving on to WiiWare, there's 403 games. There's a lot of WiiWare games that are real good fun, to be fair, but there's also a lot that's not very. Wii U, 110 games. There's a lot of the sort of freeware style type games in here, like your Adventure Time, your Angry Bird and stuff like that. There's also a lot of decent titles in here as well. They're just really idle. They're really untidy when they're building these drives. They just stick everything on. They don't bother checking stuff. Like here, I know full well that second version of Mario Kart 8 here is actually the game Turbo. It's not even Mario Kart. Mario Kart doesn't work on it. I make it work if you stick about. I should be putting some timestamps on if they work. Sometimes they don't work on YouTube, but I fix quite a few bits and bobs on the Wii U side. It just basically needs the emulator updating. It's so far behind, and a lot of the ROMs in here are broke as well. Onto 3DS, 498 games, which surprised me. Sometimes they usually bloody put thousands of these on. I've only got like 30, 40 games on mine. I'll probably update that at some point, but again on mine I just put the top 25 in, then I added a few to it. But in fairness, there's a fair few decent little games on the 3DS. A lot of repeats again on here, but not a bad collection. Super Nintendo MSU, 156 games. This is just a CD player announcement for the Super Nintendo. It was originally made by Sony PlayStation. Well, Sony, it was classed as like something to do with Sony PlayStation, or the CD player was made by Sony PlayStation. If you look at the actual picture where the TV is, you'll see the controller says Sony on it, and the CD player underneath it says Sony. But it's basically all the Super Nintendo games, but it's got the updated, enhanced CD quality music and sound effects. So if you haven't sort of played them games, if you like, Alien 3 was a really good game on Super Nintendo. Well, there were loads of really good games on Super Nintendo, but you can come back and play them with the enhanced sound to see if it's your cup of tea. I've never really bothered with them personally, but at least they're not like hack games where they're messing about the actual game. It's just the sound effects that are going to be different, and the added music and stuff. On the Switch, there's a fair few games in there. I'm not going to talk about this too much because you can get in trouble for it, so I tried a few games on it, they loaded. That's about as much as I'm going to say on that. Philips CDI, 55 games. There's a lot of like these Vegas girls and strip poker type games on there. I take them all off my systems. A lot of people buy these to show the kids what sort of games you used to play. You know, you don't really want. I'm looking at Sam Fox's boobs. Beats of Rage, 126 games. These are just all fighting games, basically all different sort of aftermarket made games. They're a lot of fan made games on them. But there's all sorts of stuff in here. Again, it's very popular, this is, but not my cup of tea. Homebrew ports, there's just 5 games. These are just built into Retrobat. Every time, if you install Retrobat, they're just there. Scum VM 62 games. These are all your point and click adventure games. Some really good games in these. I really enjoy Scum VM, to be fair, but I used to really like my point and click adventure games. And again, with this, it looks like it's a really good collection. There's all the artworks there. There's no repeats. Even that loom there, I know there's two versions. It's two different versions of the game, that is, because I've got it on mine as well. It'll be off a different computer, basically. The Police Quest games, they were classics. The Sega SG-1000, 75 games. This was the console that was released before the Master System in... I'm not 100% certain whether it ever got released in Europe, even though that game says Europe there. I'm pretty sure it didn't. I'm pretty sure it just got released in Asia. I'm not sure if it went to America, but I believe this was when the Europeans and Americans sort of seen this and had a play about on it and knew that it'd do well in our market, so that's when the Master System came out, I believe. A lot of these games sort of ported over onto the Master System. Which is 335 games. I think that's pretty much exactly the same amount as what's mine's about. Mine's about exactly that, to be fair. 300 odd games on my system. Alice the Kid in Miracle World, probably the best game on the Master System. That was brilliant, that was. Again, another really good collection here. All the artwork's there. There's no repeat ROMs. The Sega Genesis, 946 games. It's like they're all mixed up in here. You've got American, Japanese, European. Obviously in England, in Britain, the Sega Genesis with the Sega Mega Drive, which is quite confusing at times because I'm pretty sure there was a Japanese version of a Mega Drive as well, or something along them lines, because there's a lot of Japanese games in the Mega Drive collection, usually on these drives, and they've got Mega Drive boxes on them, but it's the Japanese. I thought it was just a British thing, to be fair, but obviously I'm wrong with that. We'll probably see a Mega Drive, 916 games. You can see the Japanese games. If you look at the boxes, they do say Mega Drive on them, so Mega Drive cartridge, but I'm not 100% certain of that. I never really looked into it before. I thought it was just for our market, the Mega Drive. Again, loads of repeat games in here. Sega Mega Drive hacks, 29 games. As you can see, some of the hacks in these, they're basically just enhanced colours and stuff, so they just made the game look prettier, to be fair. So it's not like they've really messed about with the actual original game, they've just made it look a bit better. Sega Genesis hacks, 159 games. Sega Game Gear, 335. Again, looks like it's another good collection here. All the artwork's there. There's not a great deal of repeat games, if any, to be fair. Micro Machines, I believe that was the greatest game ever made on Sega Game Gear. The fact where you could play 2 players. Sega CD, 163 games. Another good collection, all the artwork's there. As I've said, if you're going to use this as a ROM dump, there's not a great deal you've got to do to it to put it right. It won't take long. You just come in and hide the second disc of certain games, you know, and delete all the repeats. And if you're English or American, you delete the Japanese games. Sega 32X is 35 games. There's one repeat there and the Cosmic Carnage. Onto Sega Saturn, 306 games. And again, my only gripe with this collection is they've not hid the disc 2, which they're not going to do. They never do, to be fair. They don't go to that much effort. Besides that, it's totally fine. You can't, you know, I'm not going to criticise them for not adding the disc 2. It's just something I do, so there's not as many games listed. But again, all the artwork's here. It's a really good collection again. So again, all you do is you go into this Mr. Bones, press your A button on there. If you go down to edit metadata, go on to hidden, click it. Then the next time you update your games list, that game won't be there, the second disc won't be there, it'll just be hidden. Dreamcast 333 games. Again, it's just the discs that aren't hidden. Besides that, it's absolutely perfect. It's a really good collection. All the artwork, can't fault it at all, to be fair. There's the odd repeat, but oddly there's only a couple of 3 that I've seen as I've gone down. Sega Hikaru, there's only 5 games in here. All 5 of these work. I know full logs when I do the playthrough, which will probably be the second video. I played all these games. Surprised it's not on the Hyperspin version, to be fair. That's literally all the arcade systems on there. 311 games for Sharp X68000. That game needs to be removed from any system, to be fair. If you read the description, I didn't realise for ages. I read the description one day when I was going down, and obviously I had to remove it. If you read the description, it's not something you want your kids sort of playing or reading or anything. Again, with these old Sharp computers, it was all Japanese, but a lot of these games are playable. I played them myself. ZX Spectrum, part of my childhood. This was 528 games. I remember having the 48k one and the 128k with a tape player built on. I love the old Spectrum back in the day. I mean, the graphics are absolutely shocking on them. You used to get the colours running into different colours. They were really bad, but still, back in the day, I absolutely hammered it. I used to play it every day. Neo Geo Pocket, 10 games. Again, a lot of these aren't really playable. I put them on mine as well, but... Neo Geo Pocket Color, 40 games. Again, there's a lot of these have been translated, I believe. There isn't mine, but for the most, they are Japanese games. Sony PlayStation 1,804 games. Again, on mine I put a lot less on than this, but I take a lot of the crap games out basically and have the more popular games in. But you can't fault this collection here. It's 1,800 games is not far off like the full collection of PlayStation games. They don't like there's any repeats, there's all the artwork, so again that's a perfect little collection. There's a few too many FIFA soccer games on there, to be fair. Formula 1, the original Formula 1, that were a brilliant game that when it came out. Classic Gran Turismo 1 and 2 on there. PlayStation 2, 641 games. Again, looks like another real solid collection here. The only one thing I do say here is there is no Gran Turismo in it. I don't know why they've not put it on there. It plays perfectly fine because I play it myself, so don't understand why that's not there. Pretty sure there were two, weren't they, on the PlayStation 2. I'm pretty sure there's Gran Turismo 3 and 4 were both should have both been on there. PSP 825. Again, another really good collection. They put the Gran Turismo on the PSP. PSP Minis, 312 games. Again, like in Nintendo Wii Minis and all the others, there's a lot of absolute shocking games in here, but same again, there's a lot of real playable games. You can stick them on and like lose your head away in them for a couple hours. PlayStation 3, 172 games. Really nice collection, that is. There's some work needs doing to it. They don't go... I'm looking at this on the second video, and I'll show you how to update the emulator and stuff like that, because it's way behind. And also, there's certain games that need certain settings doing, and there's been none of it done. On my system, every single game on the PlayStation 3's got its own custom configuration, and I've put in whatever the internet recommends, whatever setting the internet recommends. Obviously with drives like this, they don't go to that much effort. But same again, I'm not fully slated, it's easily enough done, it's just a bit frustrating to be fair. And again, there's no Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 3. Grand Theft Auto 4 as well is not Grand Theft Auto 4, it's San Andreas, so it's just scraped wrong. PS Vita 78 games. I've got on my personal drive, mine's got about 30, I believe, something like that. I'm going to have another look into this, because PS Vita emulation through Vita 3K used to be shocking, and it's got 10 times better now. It's really picking up, so. And there's a lot of really good playable games on the PS Vita. I still play my actual PS Vita every now and then. Some really good games on it. And then lastly, Supervision 43 games. Again, this was just like a handheld. In the arcade section, there's just the 5 games basically, which is the Sega Hikari or whatever you want to call it. So next up we'll look at Launchbox or Bigbox, and basically all the games that are in Retrobat are repeated in this different system here. Some people prefer Bigbox, Launchbox, some people prefer Retrobat. You can come in, you can make it look totally different, you can change all the themes as you can with Retrobat. It's really good. Launchboxes. I paid for the Bigbox version because I used to use it quite a lot. But basically all the games are just linked from the Retrobat folders. The only thing you're going to get different in here is the artwork that's scraped. And in a lot of cases when I was scrolling through, I've seen a lot of games that was scraped wrong. So they said there was a certain game, and if you loaded it up, it wasn't what it said it was. So that's something else, again, you'd have to look at. Seems to be a lot more artwork missing on these systems as well. But again, it's down to personal preference here. Some people prefer Launchbox, Bigbox. But in all honesty, I don't really need to show you much of this, because it's all the same games, so it's all the same games you've already seen. It's just a different front-end system to play them on. So next up we'll look at Hyperspin, which is basically all the arcade games, and this is where I'm going to be moaning. So I can't really I don't like them like this, like the certain game collections like the 1940 games and the 1942 and that, because there's still all the repeat ROMs in there. But I can see why people do it. AAE, which is another arcade emulator, that's fair enough. That's all different games in there. That's a decent collection, to be fair. You've not got repeat games in there, and it's not just links to MAME, it's actual different games in there. is when we get down to stuff like this, like all the different Atari systems. You'll look at them, there's like that one, there's 3 games in it. It's just absolutely pointless. All these are shortcuts to MAME. So you end up with about 500 wheels of games that are all just being loaded from the MAME system. And it boils my piss to be fair. See, me personally, I'd delete all these. As I'd be going down, I'd delete all these. I know a lot of people like the Capcom Play System 1, 2 and 3, so fair enough, you could leave them in. But these other ones here, they're just all... The Capcom Play System 1, 2 and 3 are all just links to MAME. But I can see why people would do it with that, because they're really popular. But me personally, I just don't like these having to scroll through bloody 800 wheels to get to where you need to go. It's not... I'm just really not a fan of it at all. Final Burn Alpha. Fair enough, this is there's going to be some stacks and stacks of repeat games in here, but it's still a really good collection. You've got all your arcade games in here. A lot of times, Final Burn Alpha, I tend to find it works better than MAME. Certain things with the controllers and stuff, certain games run better for Alpha. Not all the time, but what I did on mine, because there's like 7,000 games, a lot of the games you can't just delete the ones that you don't want, so a lot of the games rely on the other ROMs that are in there, so you literally have to keep them all on. It's like MAME with the merged and non-merged sets. As you can see here though, like with the Super Street Fighter, there's just bloody loads of them. So on mine, it literally took me over a week, and I just went and id every single game. I loaded one up, made sure it worked, and that's the one that I kept on my game and scraped the artwork for. All the others I've just id, which took me a bloody long time, so you can see why these don't do it, but it makes for a lot better looking system. And then if we flirt up to Street Fighter itself, I mean, even the most diehard Street Fighter fans, you don't need this many Street Fighter games. It's just the same game, and there's like 50 different versions of it. I mean, how many are you going to play? You need 2 there out of that. You need Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition in my eyes. Just pick 2 of them and get rid of the rest, hide them, whatever. Homebrew MAME's another one that's I'd leave added on mine. I don't know whether I've got this on my system. I don't think I did, to be fair. All these Iron collections are all the same. Again, they're going to have 5, 6 games or 10 games, whatever, and they're just absolutely pointless. And when it says 6 games, you go in them, and obviously there's repeats in there as well, so it makes them even less. There's MAME, 11,241 games, which if you took them all out, it'd be more like 3,000 games. I can sort of go along with that. I know I'd like to have a light gun section on mine. A lot of these you'll go through it though, and there's a lot of games in there that aren't light gun games. They sort of populate them themselves, and it makes a lot of mistakes. If there's a certain game that's classed as a light gun game and it's not, it's going to stick it in there, but I can see why people had wanted a separate version just for light gun games. Yeah, and all these like Namco classics, they're just all games out of the MAME collection. They're just all shortcuts. Now, to be fair, I don't understand. I think it's just a gimmick, to be fair, to say there's 6 different systems on here, but I don't understand why I haven't just put all the arcade games on Retrobat. I use all my arcade games on Retrobat. Atomic Waves is a separate system. some really good games in that. They don't link to MAME, so same as that, that's on my system. But yeah, I don't get why they just don't put it on Retrobat. You know, you don't need this extra, you don't need Hyperspin, basically. I've had a lot of issues with Hyperspin, and I've never had them with Retrobat. You get your Sega Model 1, 2 and 3 here. A lot of people like them, so I've got them separate. Your Sega Naomi and Naomi 2 as well, all them sort of systems, even though it says there's 0 games there. Basically, Naomi and Naomi 2 are... The arcade system was basically exactly the same as the Sega Dreamcast, so they're all exactly the same as Sega Dreamcast games, the same graphics, same power, but obviously there was set on an arcade version, so you have to have coins and stuff. But even in these, you've got your different Sega, like Sega Relics, 3 different versions. I don't like it. I just stick one on them, to be fair. It's not all about me, but it's just my personal preference. Same with the Neo Geo as well. I mean, the Neo Geo CD wasn't exactly an arcade system, was it? It was a home system. So I'm surprised that's not in my retro. But you got the three or four different versions of the Neo Geo there. They're probably all linked to the same games. To be fair, I don't know. I've not looked into it. That looks a different system. I've never really bothered with it. I know I had a lot of issues when I tried to play that Hyper Neo Geo 64 before. Well, there's going to be a lot of repeat games in these that are on each version of the Neo Geo. You'll click on it, every one of them, they'll have pretty much the same games in it. Like the free count bout will be in every Neo Geo system. So look, free count bout, it's going to be in everything. I have the 2 versions of the Neo Geo on mine, the Neo Geo and the Neo Geo CD. But again, as I'll keep saying, it's a really, it's still, for the price, it's really cheap, really affordable. And for the money, it's really good. You can build yourself a really good system out of this, to be fair. You know, with a bit of work, you can build yourself a brilliant system. Get rid of all this crap that's in here. Probably put it all through Retrobat, but you can end up with a really good system. And then we'll have a look at the Playnite System, which is the PC games. I'm just going to have a quick look at this. I'm not going to go through it too much because I recorded this after I've got a bit of sound, so I'll turn this annoying music off for a little while because I'm pretty sure you're getting pissed off it now, and play you a little bit of sound. Not be for long, but as I've said, when I make the part 2 to this video, everything will have sound on it. So there's some modern games in here. Again, this can sort of land you in trouble talking about this. It's not retro games, is it? It's more modern stuff. So that's about as much as I'm going to show you and much to say about that. I will say I loaded about 4 games, they're all loaded, so. Teknoparrort, and again, they've done this the same on here. They put all the different boards, all you need is Teknoparrort. You don't need all this crap with it. You know, like 5 games in one system. There's like 100 odd games in Teknoparrort, so just leave it as Teknoparrort. Again, I don't understand why they put this through Hyperspin, because I've had nothing but issues with it playing this on through Hyperspin. I've had it lock my computer up loads of times. I run it through Retrobat, to be fair, and I'd always say with Teknoparrort, you're always better off just running it through the standalone emulator. But with Retrobat, there's only one game, which is Operation Ghost, where you have to load it through the emulator, otherwise it doesn't go full screen, and it has a bit of a fit when you load it up. But everything else runs fine through Retrobat. On this, when I was clicking the games, it was just locking up. You get an error through Rocket Launcher because it uses Rocket Launcher, basically saying it's timed out. So I went in. You can change a setting that should help with it, but to be fair, I tried it and it still didn't help. So I was just getting nothing but issues with it. Well, that is I've never played that. No, not got that on mine. There's an odd few games here that isn't on mine, so it might be a case where I'm going to nick a few games out of it. But they're mostly the same games that I've got on my system. But mine are a lot more compatible than this for some reason. So now let's move on and have a look at some gameplay. As I've said, I'm not going to go through all the systems, I'm just going to go through the odd one. I'll show you like the 3DO games here firstly. It's not worth me showing you the Nintendos, the Super Nintendos, your Sega Mega Drives and all that, because all the games will work there. There's, you know, you're not going to have any issues with them. PlayStation, I'll show you all the more later consoles just to show you games running on them. You scroll down here now. It's not really worth looking at any of the old Ataris and stuff like that. They're just going to work. The Atari Lynx, ColecoVision, Commodore 64, all this sort of stuff. Obviously, you're going to get games that don't work in there, but it isn't worth me scrolling through. I could probably click 50 games and they'd load. So next up, we'll look at the original Xbox. Again, compatibility-wise here, I think I loaded about 10 games up. Every single game worked fine. The original Xbox emulator now is so much better than it used to be. It's really, really loads better, loads more compatible. When I first started doing my build, I could only get about 60 games working on it. Now I've got close to 600, and I know there's a lot more that work, but again, I cut a lot of crap out, so I could put a lot more games on, but I'd just be filling it with games that people won't play. And also, with all these Xbox games, they're just set to the standard resolution. Obviously, I could up the resolution on my system, but I'll just leave it as standard. Next up, Xbox 360, Ridge Racer 6. And with this, obviously there's a lot of graphical issues. There's flashing trees and whatever else is going on at the start. Lego Star Wars seemed to run absolutely fine. Project Gotham 3 run absolutely perfect. The only issue I can see with it is there's, obviously I can't show it yet on the video because I haven't got no sound, but there is an issue with the sound where the engine, it just doesn't sound right, but it's still really playable, runs full speed, runs really well. Dante's Inferno seemed to run absolutely fine, full speed. There were no graphical issues. Again, with the Xbox 360 for the most, I loaded about probably 10 games up and every single one worked except for Forza Motorsport 2, which I will show you now. And with the Forza Motorsport 2, I know full well, earlier on you had to go and change a setting in the config file, in the actual emulator itself. But then later, I know full well that the latest version of the emulator doesn't crash the game, it runs fine. And this is where it's going to crash now. So if you have a look in the menu, I was just checking, yeah, it's running Xenia Canary, which is like basically the sort of the early access version of the emulator. Now we'll navigate his way to the emulator section in Retrobat, and we will see that this hasn't been updated since November the 7th, 2020. So it's really out of date. Search Xenia Canary on Google. And it will come up with this, where you can see a Canary Experimental. You click the latest version and it's going to give you a download folder here, a download zip file here. When you unzip it, it's just a readme text with an internet address on, where you literally just copy and paste this into your search string and it will take you to the latest versions of the emulator. See, this one was updated last week. I'm going to download the Windows zip, and it's just going to download 2 files. All you're going to do is copy or cut, whichever one way you want to do it, and paste them into your emulators folder within your Kinhank stroke Peaprit drive, whatever it's called, Peaprit. Just copy and paste, replace the files when asked. But then we'll load Forza 2 back up. And this is the exact place where it would normally crash. And as you can see, just updating the emulator has made this game work. And to be fair, Forza 2 seems to run pretty well. All the Forza games struggle a little bit on the emulator. Forza Horizon 2 runs fairly okay-ish. The other ones have, they tend to have a lot of graphical issues and shadows of boxes underneath the car. Instead of looking like a car, it's like a big grey box and stuff. Onto Gears of War 3. It's running a little bit jerky, a little bit slow, but my PC's not the newest of PCs, to be fair. It's fairly dated now. You can see I'm getting quite a bit of slowdown there. I've got an old GTX 1080 Ti in my system, so obviously if you've got a 4090, or if you're lucky enough to have one of the newer ones, then you're probably going to run a hell of a lot better than this. We'll have a quick look at Gears of War 2 as well while we're in here. This tends to run a little bit better. It's still a bit jerky. Most of the Gears of Wars run on the emulator, they're just not perfect. Now moving on to Gamecube. Firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my emulator section and I'm going to make sure that I back up my original Dolphin emulator folder. So if you right click it, copy and paste it within inside the actual folder where the emulators are, it will keep your original one there. And then on the new one, you can update it. Just in case there's any issues, sometimes your updating emulators can knacker one thing up that used to work fine. Call it whatever you want, obviously. but just make sure you've got a backup of it. And I suggest doing that with every time you update. For the most emulators, I would suggest backing them up. Inside Dolphin, if you come in help, check for updates, and there's a newer version available. They've not been updating Dolphin for a long time, but they've recently started updating again. Again, same with other systems. I loaded about 10 games up, all run fine. You could easily go in and higher the resolution on this. It runs really well. Gamecube does. Dolphin it's always been a good emulator. Now they're updating it again. Now what we'll do, I'll show you how to configure your controllers via the Dolphin emulator, running it through the actual program itself. So if you just scroll right up to the top, go into Retrobat, go down to Dolphin, this is where all your emulators are stored. Make yourself a profile, call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it Wii. And then as we go down, you can see where it says device, it's set to X input 0 gamepad. I'm using a Xbox One controller. You just click on all of the options and choose which button you want to use for that certain thing. When it's plus and minus, I always use back and start there. Home button, you can use the Xbox button. And then if we go on to the motion simulation, this is what you want to use as your pointing device here. So you'll calibrate. I use my right thumbstick and the left thumbstick for the nunchuck. If you look at the bottom where it says total yaw, total pitch on 20, that makes me run into a couple of issues. Always save before you leave. I'll show you the issues now. Sims 2 Castaway, I cannot just scroll down to that plus sign. Same with Wario Smooth Rooms as well, exactly the same. I can't scroll down to where it says start. Start, I thought it was something to do with the resolution in the options because it's full screen and not sort of set in a 6:9 format. So I went and tried to change it to 6:9. It made no difference. I tried having a mess about with all the options that I could see, couldn't get it to work. So I'll go back into the emulator as I've shown you, go up to the Retrobat option, load up Dolphin. Go to the motion simulation section. Yeah, I changed both options here to 25. Which still, I got another issue a bit later on, and I end up putting both of these on 30, but I'll show you on the video where to do that as well. But changing both of these options to 25 made the Sims and the Wario game both load and both work, and I could get to where I needed to go. 007 Quantum of Solace was the first game I tried, and it was like it was going in slow motion. I don't know if it was going to load if I left it going, but it was just taking forever, so I just turned it off. Every other game that I tested on here worked on the Wii. It was just obviously the issue with the controller that I had. As you can see here, I'm using it. I use the right thumbstick and it's a real pain in the arse to move. It's so fidgety and sensitive and awkward. I always recommend for anybody buying any of these hard drives that's got Wii on it, always buy the Mayflash Dolphin bar and get yourself a Wiimote. So much better. You can use them for the arcade games as well, the shooting games. They're a real good bit of kit, and they're only about 20 quid, £25, or probably less now, to be fair. But they really, really add a lot. You can play all the games with your Wiimote and nunchuck. It works just as it did on the Wii, to be fair. And also the one good thing how this is set up on this drive, to be fair, I'll give it credit here. when you're playing the games that need the Wiimote or the nunchuck, it will automatically recognise. Games like this GoldenEye, it will automatically put it back onto the Pro controller, so you can just use your normal controller. It's not like using a Wiimote. Now, when I went to load Dirt 2, this is where I got my next issue with the controller. I could type a name and I couldn't actually go to return. So I'll go back into the motion simulation system where I showed you earlier on. Change both values to 30. Reload Dirt back up. Moving on to Wii U, I went to load Lego Jurassic World and I had no controls. So again, going to the Retrobat section, we'll go down to CMU. If we go down to the input settings and options, you can see it's set to an Xbox 360 controller, while mine's an Xbox One controller, so it doesn't work. And again, I've made a new profile. I'm just going to call it 2 here. So you need to come in here, make sure it's set to Wii U Gamepad. Now you click the API. Make sure it's on X input, and then it's controller 1. Now when I go to configure the buttons, they actually work where they wasn't before. Do all the buttons, save it. And then when I load the Jurassic World Lego game back up, I have 4 controls. Now as you go down to Mario Kart 8, you can see there's 2 different Mario Kart 8s here. You press and hold your A button and you go down to edit metadata, you can see that one is Mario Kart 8. Now if you hold it on the second one, you can see it's actually the game Turbo, not Mario Kart 8. I'll load that up and just show it you playing just to prove. So again, it's just stuff like this where they've sort of just thrown together, they don't test everything. All it needs is scraping to show that it's a different game. So now if we go up to scrape, I'm going to search for the artwork for the Turbo game instead of, and there you go, as you see at the top, it's Mario Kart 8, so it's automatically scraped it as that, and they've just left it. You see at the bottom, the HFSDB side, there's a Turbo Super Stunt Squad, there's a logo it's found, and also the box art, so we'll download them for now. Also, one thing that I've learned, and I always say it, never take no for an answer with scraping. If it's not got all the pictures and artwork you want in the video, try it again and call it something different. And I'll prove a point here now with this. We're going to go back into the scrape. I'm going to push down onto input. I'm going to delete where it says Turbo. And I'm just going to write in Stunt Squad. And then go down to the tick. And now at the top on the screen scraper, it's found the picture and the video. So we've got all the artwork we need. Now we'll go to the Mario Kart 8 and try and load it up. And as you can see, we're going to get this error. It doesn't load. Now for one, I know full well this is the CMU version 1.27 what's installed on this drive, which is really old. So what I'm going to do, I know my version of Mario Kart, which is the WX file format, I'm going to copy and paste that over as the one that comes with the drive is the WUA format. Now you go into the game settings, update your games list, you're going to find the Mario Kart that we just added, which is here. Obviously no artwork, so we'll scrape that. Hold A button, go up to scrape. It's going to find everything. Obviously we've just seen that with that. Click it to download all the artwork, and then we'll try and load it back up again. And again, it crashes. So this is where I'm going to update the emulator. As you can see, my version is 2.6, which is a sort of pre-release version. I'd stick with the 2.2 version, which is the stable release. And if we look at the one, as I said, if we look at the CMU that comes with the drive, it's 1.27. So now we're going to download the CMU 2.2 Windows x64 zip. You're going to need some sort of zip software here. I use 7-zip. Right click it and unzip it. As I've said, when you're changing an emulator, always back up your older version. You know you can fall back onto it if you do get any issues. Copy the free files over and leave the controller profiles in. When you go to load CMU up, it's going to ask you where the memory card is and stuff like that. You're just going to have to do a little bit of setting up. It's not difficult. You're just going to have to point to where your games are and where your memory card is and stuff. So we'll go straight back in and we'll put it onto this number 2 profile, what we set up, which is for our Xbox One controller. Go to load Mario Kart up again and it fails again because the keys file that comes with this drive is out of date, so you need to find the newest keys file. I can't tell you where to find it again, it's naughty apparently, but Google's your best friend there. You just need to put the newest keys in, and I'm guessing if it hasn't got Mario Kart 8 in, it's a really old keys file what's in there. I know one of the emulators that I go to update on this hasn't been updated for 2 years, so it is really out of date at times. Try and load Minecraft up, and even with my emulator in here, it wouldn't load. But I'm pretty sure this crashes on mine as well, I can't remember rightly. We're now to load Mario Tennis, and again we get an error, it won't load up. So I tried to copy my version of Mario Tennis over, and still that didn't work. I tried to load the new Super Mario Bros. Up a couple more games as well, and they all crashed. So I literally went into my emulators, which I've got set up on my system. I deleted all the files out of the CMU what come with the Kinhank drive or Peaprit drive, except for the controller profile folder. And then I just copied all my files over, and that just made all the games that wasn't working now started working. But obviously you're not going to have my version of CMU, so what I'd suggest you do from the get-go, obviously back up your CMU folder just to make sure. Then in the original CMU folder, go in and delete everything out of it except for the controller profiles, and then literally reinstall CMU into it. And just follow what it asks you to do. It's going to ask you to locate your memory card and whatever else it's going to ask you to do. I'd do that from the get-go, to be fair. new Super Mario Brothers U wouldn't work, but if you go down to the second one, this is actually Super Mario Brothers and the new Luigi built into one. So you might as well just delete the other two games and keep this one, because it's worked fine. As it loads up here, you can see in the top left hand corner it says play new Super Luigi. Just click it and it'll flick to that game, or flick it back and you'll play the Super Mario Brothers U game. Moving on to 3DS. Every game I loaded in here worked. I didn't mess about with the resolution, I just left it set as it was. I did go into the controller and make the right thumbstick the pointer. Sorry, I should say I made it visible, the pointer visible. As you can see now on the Kirby, you can see the little pointer. You couldn't see it before, so you couldn't see what he was doing. But to be fair, it doesn't work great. You're better off using the mouse if you do need to control the pointer. I stand corrected, FIFA Soccer. I went to load FIFA Soccer 13. That was the only game that didn't work, sorry. So that's it for part one. I'll wrap this video up. Main reason my computer's going to blow up while I'm trying to video edit it, because it's a dinosaur. I still don't quite understand the 6 systems part over, because I can only see 5 systems on there. I'm obviously missing one somewhere. Unless they class in rocket launcher as a system, which it isn't, but... So it'll be much the same on part 2, but obviously there'll be sound. But I'll be doing PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 updates for the emulator. Also like Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation Vita, PSP and whatever else. I'll have a good look at Teknoparrort and show you the way I'd go about it with that. So I'll just give a quick opinion on what I think on the drive. I've pretty much said it on the video anyway, but if you're wanting to buy this drive as a serious drive where it's all plug and play, everything works, it's all set up, you're not going to get that with Kinhank or Peaprit drives or whoever else sells these sort of drives, to be fair. They're not Retrobat drives, by the way. But basically, as I've said earlier on in the video, on the Retrobat side, the earlier systems, for the price you're paying for it, you've got a really good ROM dump, you've got most of the artwork there. There's not a great deal of work you're going to have to do whatsoever to put this right. So if you're wanting to build your own system and you're not bothered about it being on a second-hand drive and you haven't got the funds to buy a proper one like Retrobat, yeah, it's perfect. It's going to be perfect for you, to be fair. Or also, if you're not too bothered, you're not too serious, and you're not bothered about the million repeat ROMs, and you just want it for a bit of nostalgia, look at the old games, then go for it. You know, it's really cheap. They're on branded drives, even though the second-hand drives, as I said in the video, I'd rather have a second-hand branded drive than a brand new, like, really cheaply made drive. The caddy on it's really cheap plastic crap. You can tell that's not going to last long, but the drive, I've seen other people open them and get Western Digital drives in there, so I'm assuming they're just going to send you a branded drive, a decent drive. And obviously, if you don't want to keep it in the caddy, you can just slide it out the caddy and put it in your computer. You can have it internally in your computer. I'm going to try and get the second part of the video up this week. It's going to take a while. I've got bloody hours more videos to edit through, and I'm going to create some little guides and stuff, so I'll try and get it done for a week from today, but it maybe take a little longer. But anyway, I'll shut up now, because obviously you're getting pissed off with me, boys, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye for now, peeps.